So I want to talk about how the concept of Kaizen can transform your life, one step at a time. Often we have this idea that change needs to be this massive shift. Um, the problem is most of the time that's not a sustainable way to change. Um, and really the better way to think about it is how can we take small steps toward big change? Um, Kind of like if you think about how you climb a mountain, right? It's one step at a time, but it's this massive undertaking. Um, but when you just put one step in front of the other, eventually, you know, providing you follow all safety, protocol, you're going to get to that summit. And so, ever since I met uh one of my mentors, Sensei Nakao, I've come to understand Kaizen from a different perspective than what most people consider it to be. Oftentimes, when I have conversations with folks and I ask them about Kaizen, typically they refer to it as an event or a set of tools used for, project work. And although, those tools are helpful and they can achieve improvements in short amounts of time, I think they don't necessarily capture the full essence of what Kaizen is. And so, what I've discovered is that it's really more of a mindset and a way of life rather than the act, of improving things. And realizing this has really inspired an idea for a new book that I'm working on, in which I explore the power of cultivating that mindset centered around small, meaningful improvements in our everyday lives. And although, I do discuss some of the tools in there, it's important to recognize that Kaizen is more than that. It's really has the potential to transform not only the business you happen to work in or own, but also the life that you lead outside of the work that you do. So it's really this opportunity to enhance your personal growth and improve upon the daily routine that you follow. So I wanted to share, an excerpt from the first chapter. And I'm curious to, get your thoughts on that. But so yeah, here we go. So, a few years ago, a small manufacturing company on the brink of closure decided to try something radical. Faced with mounting debt and dwindling morale, they embraced a philosophy called Kaizen. And instead of these grand overhauls, they focused on minor and continuous improvement opportunities. Workers began suggesting tiny tweaks, adjusting the angle of a machine, or rearranging tools for easier access. And within months, productivity started to surge. The amount of waste you saw on those processes really diminished, and the company survived and thrived. And this isn't just a story of a business turnaround. It was really a testament to the transformative power of Kaizen. And in my own life, I experienced similar revelation, struggling to balance work and personal commitments. I started applying Kaizen principles, those small, consistent changes to the daily routine that I follow. And from organizing my workspace to tweaking the morning routine I follow, these tiny adjustments brought a profound sense of balance and harmony and efficiency to my life. So this, blend of professional success and personal growth has really, continuing to fuel my fire for my passion for Kaizen, which really led me to write the book that I'm working on. And, I've spent years helping different organizations and individuals learn how to integrate Kaizen into their routines. And, my journey began, you know, with a deep dive into Eastern philosophy where I find a lot of resonance. And I've been really looking for ways to adapt those Eastern philosophies to modern Western practice, particularly in business settings. I've worked in a variety of industries, from manufacturing to government, financial services, really helping guide them towards continuous improvement without overwhelming existing workflows. So this book is a resource on Kaizen, which, unlike most existing literature, not all, but most, really helps bridge Eastern philosophy with Western business practice. It strongly focuses on mindset behind Kaizen rather than the activities that many think of when they hear the word spoken. It delves into how leadership can evolve to support continuous improvement and offer an innovative companion resource, inside that book as well, to help enhance the learning experience. So, whether you're a quality professional, manager, or an executive, this book will help provide tools, to help embed the Kaizen mindset seamlessly into your daily routine. And, I find fascinating for those that are unfamiliar with the actual etymology of the word Kaizen. The word itself comes from two Japanese kanji characters. The first one, kai, meaning reformation, change, to modify or to mend, and zen, which many are probably familiar with, but it's, meaning goodness or virtuous. And together they represent the philosophy, known as continuous improvement, but it's really much more personal than simply thinking about this as a business, um, and like simple activities. So the first kanji can also be broken down into two parts, the self or I, and to hit, whip, or put into submission. So holistically, if you start really diving deep into the meaning behind what these characters represent, Kaizen isn't just continuous improvement from a business lens, but also focused self-improvement, a concept of breaking apart what you have to put it back together in a better form. Masaki Imai once wrote, the Kaizen philosophy assumes that our way of life, be it our working life, our social life, or our home life, deserves to be constantly improved. So Kaizen isn't about making one significant change, but many small incremental changes that add up over time. So, to be continued with the rest of the book, but I'm curious what your thoughts are on that little excerpt. And, I wanted to kind of close out our conversation today a little bit by talking about why small steps matter. And, throughout my career, a lot of leaders have approached me stressing the importance of making quick improvements to begin reaping the benefits of, that available opportunity. What many of them overlook is that our current situation is rarely a result of a single significant change we made in the past, right? Typically, it's a series of small incremental changes that led us away from the desired outcomes that we want. So, to effectively influence change and ultimately achieve the results we want, we need to make small, consistent steps back toward the outcomes that we want. It's really a much more sustainable approach when it comes to change management. It's much easier for people to typically absorb and support. So, consider your business or the organization you work in, or even your life, like a massive ship that navigates the sea. If you attempt to turn the ship quickly, you risk capsizing it and potentially sinking it into the ocean's depths. Now, I'm no sailor, but I can confidently say that's not an ideal situation for your vessel, right? You don't want it to be at the bottom of the ocean. You want it to be on top, right? So if you make small adjustments and changes, it becomes much more manageable, and it really helps create that consistent shift of course, if you will. Um, I've learned over time that Kaizen has this ability to help encourage patience and persistence, and something that I think a lot of us could definitely, myself included, work on, And so if you think about some opportunities to integrate this mindset into your daily routines, try thinking about implementing a simple habit, such as, um, at the end of each workday, just tidy up your workspace for 5 minutes and just make sure that when you come back to it the next day, it's ready for you to do your work. You could also, record small wins, each day to stay motivated and see that growth over time. Um, so that's all for today. And next time I'm going to dive in a little bit on my most recent book that I published called 5S Mastery. You can find a link to that book in the notes below. And we're going to talk a little bit about how that methodology can be used to not only create organized workspaces, right, which is what it's most commonly known as, but it also helps build morale and ultimately will help bring efficiency into your processes. And so, and spoiler alert, it doesn't matter how big your business is, 5S is definitely something that you can use, or even just in your personal life, you can definitely use it. So until next time, I'm going to leave you with a quote from Robert Collier. Success is the sum of small efforts repeated day in and day out. With that, I'll talk to you next time.